Buddhism it's kind of a mystery. Like the early years, it's a 2,568-year-old tradition. Early years, there wasn't really a written language at that time. It's an oral tradition. But according to that, the Buddha sprang from his mother's side, took 7 steps, pointed to the sky like this. It's depicted here, one arm down, and said, oh, and the heavens above and the earth below, only I am holy. But probably, I think, and the remarkable thing about Buddhism, he was just a normal baby. He grew up, normal childhood, and somehow, through his own effort, he attained enlightenment. And that's really the magic of Buddhism. At some point, also this is, from the oral tradition, he encountered old age, sickness, and death, and struck his mind, that question. But we don't know exactly what happened. Maybe there was some other calamity that drove him from the palace, but he left, and he, great effort, many, many years of work. He got enlightenment. He did it. And that's the important thing. That's the point of origin of us. All of these lineages, all this beautiful Dharma came from that effort. And that's really what we're celebrating today, whether or not this is a legend or if it's true. But there's something in here. I wanted to read this. This is from the Morning Bell Chant. According to this, the Buddha is like the Ganges, innumerable grains of sand, or the infinite moments in all time, or innumerable dust particles, or countless blades of grass, numberless number. So what does that mean? I remember a long time ago, one of the teachers here told me a story about this thief who was trying to escape. And he was very fast. He was ahead of his captors, running. And he came across a fire pit. And he stopped. He took the ashes and spread all over his body, sat down by the road like a holy man. And the police ran right past. Didn't even notice. But he was afraid to move because they were sweeping the area. So he stayed there. Eventually, the villagers found him and started bringing him food because they thought he was a holy man. But the story is, eventually he became a holy man. So what does that mean? Are those two different? What is that path? This is from the Temple Rules. You must first make a firm decision to attain enlightenment and help others. That kind of encapsulates all that we do. And I love that there's 2 parts. Attain enlightenment, help others. That's important. Those 2 things, it's like a symbiotic relationship, right? But this last sentence is what grabs me. Let go of your small self and become your true self. That's the invisible path. That's the hard part. Let go of the small self. That's what both of these great men did. I had the great fortune in my life to meet living Buddhists like our wonderful Zen Master Seung. He would come here. I moved here in 1990 when Descartes Singh was the abbot at that time. And he would come maybe once a year and he would just be surrounded by people. You could hardly get a word with him. But it was magical to see him just talking, just go out to dinner with him, just to see what an enlightened person looks like, how he just reacts to things. It was a wonderful teaching to encounter an enlightened being like that. I had a lot of time with him in LA, though, later. And I found that he's not a person you could really ask questions to. You can ask him, but he'll ask you a question, right? He puts it back on you, or he'll give you extra practice. But there was another one. There was another wonderful Buddha that would come here back then, Maha Gosananda. And he was just shining. It was just amazing to witness. And he would just hang out with he would hang out with me. We would just talk and spend hours with us. Such a gift. I'm sure everyone that met him just adored him. So I asked him one time, how did you get like that? I'm sure, like the Buddha, he was an ordinary baby at one time. Like, how did you make that change? I'm sure Seung too. Like, all of us start from a normal human status, you know. And this was the only time I ever saw his eyes get serious. He looked at me like I could tell he was feeling something really important, you know. And he said, all of my family was murdered by the Khmer Rouge. I could not stop crying. All I could do was go into my practice. That's all I could do, or I would just cry. And then he said, a quote from our wonderful morning bell chant, which we read every time Zen Master Seung leads a retreat. So I know these words, right? Deja Debi. Great, he translates that as great sadness is great compassion. Again, these two elements, sadness and compassion. But we translate it here as great love, great compassion. So I asked, we have a scholar here from Hong Kong, Sharon Chia. I asked her about it. Just a few days ago, she was at Kyoche with us, and she said, well, the first character, Ja, means kindness, or all the great qualities of a bodhisattva. B is sadness. But in this case, it means the suffering of the world. So again, these two elements, we have this kindness and compassion and the suffering of the world together, right? And this is what I love about what it says here. We should change this translation because we missed the teaching, yeah. So what it says, the next three words are beautiful. It says, our original teacher. Great kindness, great compassion, the suffering of the world is our original teacher. Isn't that beautiful? Anyway, so that's all for me today. I hope all of you, when you encounter adversity in your life, right? When there's some calamity, you go into practice. Try that. Try that. Do some extra practice. There's people here doing 3,000 Kwanse Bosas. Just try that. Do 108 bows a day. And, eventually let go of that small self. Or like Tawi said, give your consent to abandon that self. Become your true self and help this world. Thank you.